Ghanatube sunye and some air coso ewo on my new aha and I was ever canning na mother for snowy my science of asanasi. It is some air co eba ede ever send a matana city. Now we will see a quack j and send ede aba ebusia for a bar na matwaswamo.
As I see, maybe this is the point where I have to give you my advice. In conservationist circles, circles where they are concerned about conservation and so on, NPP members would have been declared an endangered species. And I mean it. Listen, we've just come from an election. And the results of that election is that in 4 or 5 constituencies, in 4 or 5 regions, NPP has no representation. Complete zero. Zero. Complete zero. In another 5, your representation is just 1. 1. The whole region, 1 MP, and so on. We have ended up with a situation where sometimes it is said that we have 88 members of parliament out of a total membership of 276. If I were in your shoes, I'd be very, very careful how you pitch issues. You understand how you conduct yourself. Because this is a party in huge decline. And it's about time you began asking yourself, why this huge decline? And it seems to me that the reason for this huge decline is that many of us are beginning to see that your posturing is nothing more than what it is. Just posturing. Okay. You were in power for 8 years, 8 long years. You left power with a power sector debt of between $3.1 billion and $3.7 billion. This is your legacy. And after 4 months in opposition, you are turning around to tell us how to solve that problem that you left. No, do you understand what I'm saying?
I get it. I get the logic.
After 4 or 5 months in opposition, you have turned around to tell us how to resolve that problem that you couldn't solve and left behind. And you expect the people of Ghana to take you seriously? I can't. There's no way I can. When you start reading that story from that newspaper, it says they have put forward proposals for dealing with the energy sector debt. Tell me what proposal is there.
I can read the story again.
And show me what concrete proposal is there. There's no concrete proposal. We have an energy sector debt which is ballooning. We need to address that problem. How do we address it? That is the issue before us today. And I listen to my brothers and my friends and say, oh, you took out e-levy, which was yielding a little over 2 billion, and then you brought in this petroleum levy, which is going to yield 5.4 billion.
5.7.
5.7, thank you, 5.7 billion. And therefore, it is a rip-off. What kind of calculation is that? Why do you just concentrate on petroleum levy and e-levy? But there are many things that you could bring into the equation. One of the things you could bring into the equation is the drop in inflation. That's a factor you cannot ignore in this calculation. The other factor you cannot ignore in this calculation is the fact that within 5 months, the cedi has dropped to, as at yesterday, 10.3 or so. That's another factor that you have to take account of. Okay? So there are many things which you could bring into the calculation to net them off, to establish whether there's a rip-off or there's no rip-off. And I'm surprised that today you have a minority or an opposition which is still complaining about the cancellation of the e-levy. Go to the last campaign. Master, I beg you, go to the last campaign.
Not say that.
Who in the last campaign did not campaign that when they come to power they will remove the e-levy?
Exactly.
Who in the last campaign?
Yeah, so we are
Dr. Bawumia was complaining that e-levy was such a bad thing that his own government imposed. It was such a horrible thing that his own government imposed. Indeed, even on the thank you tour, he kept saying that they lost elections because of e-levy. It was not properly conceived, it was not properly sold, and so on. So stop talking about e-levy, because all of you agreed that e-levy was bad and had to be cancelled.
Yeah.
Okay? So don't bring that e-levy matter into the equation. The two of you agreed, all of you agreed that e-levy was bad and needed to be withdrawn. It's been withdrawn. Now, this problem, the energy sector debt or the power sector debt, would not have arisen if some measures which were put in place, I think in 2012, were made to develop. ESLA was imposed on us for the specific purpose of retiring the energy sector debt.
Yeah.
What did you do to ESLA? You came and used it as a collateral for obtaining more loans, to increase our debt burden and so on. That's why we are here. That's one of the reasons why we are here today. You understand? And I think it's important for you to appreciate that. It's important for you to admit what you did, which brought us here. In any case, the energy sector debt is not new. And the imposition of levies and taxes as a means of dealing with that problem is also not new. I recall that in 2001, when President Kufuor took office, there was a huge debt at ɁTOR, the Tema oil refinery. What was the solution? The imposition of the ₦TOR debt recovery levy, which I suspect we are still paying. Check the price builder. You'll find that we are still paying the ₦TOR debt recovery levy. That was from 2001 under an NPP administration. Now, this 1 cedi levy which has been imposed, before the imposition of the 1 cedi levy, the levy existed. We were paying 95 pesos per liter as levy.
That's correct.
The only thing which has happened was that this new administration has added 1 cedi
to it.
So instead of 95 pesos, we are now paying 1 cedi 95 pesos.
Yes.
But the levy existed.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is not a new levy.
Yeah, it's the quantum that we say is
Fantastic.
huge.
It's not a new levy.
Yeah.
It's an old levy which existed in your administration and so on. You understand? Now, there are some challenges that we can all speak about. And that is the fact that if you take the energy sector, there's a lot of waste in the energy sector. It's established that there is profound mismanagement in the energy sector. These are established facts. Now, if you take electricity supply alone, the line losses are beyond what is reasonable. And we know what causes line losses and so on.
Yeah.
You know, so many problems.
For system losses, yes.
So if we want to address the energy sector debt, we need also to pay attention to the inefficiencies in the sector. Because if you don't deal with the inefficiencies in the sector, you'll be imposing levies, and the problem will not go away. So we need to address the inefficiencies as part of the measures which will help us to deal with this mounting debt in the energy sector.
ya kwaje ensem no aba obetimi eja comment comment section down me mejebre na makenkan ni na awon mo amodofo snowy na betina say ensem no ebre no aha Ghanatube so sisi ade makram